There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. 6:30 p.m. Call the meeting to order. And please stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Superintendent Hanson, do we have any agenda revisions?
We do not.
Okay. Any questions from the board on the consent agenda?
Nope, not for me.
255 pages of contracts was a lot to read through.
I was going to make a comment on that as well.
But I found nothing objectionable. And
Did you read those 277 pages?
I did.
Really? Thank you, Chuck. I didn't. I read the top page and I think the financial contract is the only new thing in there that I saw. And I presume you're Sharice.
Shalice, yes.
Sharice, yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have any comments?
No.
Can I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously.
Just as a, by the way, we just approved collective bargaining agreements. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
yes.
Agreed.
Amen to that.
Okay, we are going to recess to a public budget hearing. The district has completed the 2024-25 budget and has published a notice of this budget hearing in accordance with RCW 28A 505.050. The budget is on file at the district administration office, and a copy of the budget is available to any person requesting a copy. The board of directors has set the date of August 27th, 2024. That's today, for the purpose of fixing and adopting the 24-25 budget. Any person may attend this public hearing and be heard for or against any part of the budget. Business manager Shalice McConnell has just provided, no, she will provide a brief overview of the 2024-25 budget, and the budget hearing will be open for public comment. The 2024-2025 budget hearing is now open.
All right. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So it is, yes, my pleasure to introduce to you Shalice McConnell. Shalice, you want to join us up front? And Shalice is going to provide information to the board through a presentation that looks very similar to the June presentation. And as I had shared, I think at the previous meeting, there have been no revisions to the budget. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to join Shalice on that side, as this is her first presentation.
Sure.
And so I see, I want to sit next to you.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I'll be over there. So briefly, I'll tell you a little bit about Shalice and how things have gone so far. So there we go. So Shalice has joined us through ESD 112. So we have a contract with them, and we are thrilled with this agreement, this partnership with them. So with it comes support with ESD 112. And so that is important for us. We have a relationship with Gavin Hotman, who's her supervisor, that previous director Chris Grinny knew really well and worked with. So that connection is helpful for us, and I appreciate that. Shalice joined us in July, probably the second week of July, and it's just been great having her here and getting to know her. And so she shares an office with Kim Goodrich, and so they work closely together. She's a part of meetings that happen throughout the week, throughout the months, with our HR payroll staff, as well as with me, our executive team. So we welcome her. She's going to go through this presentation again. You've seen many of these slides before, but I think it's a really good review of the decisions that we made, what we went through in the spring, what our enrollment looks like, and look forward to any questions you might have.
Okay, so this budget is for the 24-25 year. So for the school district, it's made up of 5 different funds. So we have the general fund, which is our main operating fund, the ASB, the debt service, which is where our bonds, capital projects, and then transportation vehicle, which is only for the yellow buses. So the main one is the general fund. We have our beginning balance that we're estimating is the 1.4 million. We are on track to end the year there, so that's pretty positive. And then we are estimating to end the year back at a 6% fund balance, which is the board's minimum fund balance policy. The ASB, they come up with their own fund balance. They go through the whole process to do their budget every year. So this is driven by the students. Debt service is driven by our bond and our loan payments as we pay it off. Capital projects is the projects we have in place of what we think is going to happen or be worked on this year. That would include ADA doors that we're looking at, the roof presentation that happened in June, among other items. And then transportation vehicle is purchasing yellow buses. So we have a pretty strict plan for how the buses are going to be purchased so that as they depreciate and fall off, a new one replaces them. And because our revenue we earn in that fund is the depreciation amount on the buses. So it's important that we keep that going to keep the revenue flowing. Are there any questions on the overview?
Do we recover money from sale of the old buses?
Yes.
Significant amount, or-
It's pretty minimal, but we do surplus the buses, so they get scrapped, and any revenue we get from them has to be put back into the transportation vehicle fund.
Okay.
So maybe in July, I've seen around $7,000 we received from scrapping buses.
Well,
So it is
Good deal.
minimal, but it's something, and it goes back in the fund, which helps us, purchase a bus.
mhm.
What has been happening lately with the buses is that it's becoming harder and harder to get them on time. So they're a couple years out. It used to be like 1 year. Now it's, in 3 years, you'll get your new bus. So it's really helpful to know the funds we have and be able to order ahead of time to get the bus by the time we need it.
Okay.
Any other-
And then I'm not going to put you on the spot or Aaron, but I just note that our prediction of the ending fund balance for this year was more like $4 million, and we ended up $2.5 million short of that. And that 1.4 is well less than 6%, as you know. And after reading through all the documents, I am assured that you all have a plan for moving back to that reserve fund so we can pay payroll every month regardless. And so that the state doesn't step in and take over. And I just
Yeah.
emphasize that's my primary budgetary concern, is to keep that ending balance at a level that will allow us locally to manage our budget and not Olympia to come in and manage. So that's my comment on that.
Along those lines, it would be helpful to see or to know that you have seen that through the year, month by month. I know that we have peaks where we get money and we have very deep valleys where all we're doing is paying our folks with no money coming in. So over the year, how much do we really need to have in order to cover the valleys? It's a question.
Yeah, I think we had this discussion the other day, and a good minimum fund balance would be to cover your average month of expenditure so that you have a fund balance that covers your average. So maybe not a really high month, but what you normally spend. And it was around 8%. Is what would cover our full expenditures for 1 month, which is what you want in case something happens, right? And you don't have that money. So the plan in the 4-year budget, the 4-year prediction is to get up there. And so that we're in a very comfortable spot. So we're not feeling that tightness, like we might need to borrow money or we might be out which the district was in last year. So the budget for this next year is very conservative. Really trying to save to get us back up to the 6%. And then over the years to get a little bit higher. So we are going to be watching it extremely closely each month. And at this point, right, the budget is just a prediction. It's where we think we're going to be. So when kids start coming back, we get to see if our enrollment increases, and then we know if we have any wiggle room, what we need to start pulling back on or being able to actually go and do. So we're just going to see what happens.
So you said, what I mean, we're looking at the average. I'd like to know which months are our low months.
So some of our low months, May is a pretty low month. It's because our apportionment, so the state comes out every year and gives you your apportionment. They say you're gonna get X amount of dollars during the year, but they don't give you the same amount every single month.
Right.
Which is not helpful as a school district. So different months, we get different amounts. So for example, this year in May, we only received 5% of our apportionment, where in July, we received 12.5%. That is a huge difference. So May is a low month.
So then the question is, on that low month of May, we need to have enough money in reserve in order to meet our debts,
To cover that.
payroll.
Correct.
And so my question is, do we need 6% to cover that? Because we've been talking about averages, but I'd like to know what we really need just for the month of May. Because we may not need the average over the course of the year just to cover May. Do you follow what I'm
I do.
asking?
I do.
One way to just rough that out is to say our expenditures are more or less constant over the course of the year. And so it's 50 million over a year, 4.1 million per month. So that, to Chuck's point, that would be a target to have in reserve, 4.1 million to cover. Is that kind of what you're asking about?
That's what I'm asking about, but I don't look at it that way. Do you
Okay.
understand where I'm going?
For us, one of our lowest months would be about the 6%. 6% for us is around $3 million.
Okay,
And that is like the lowest expenditure month we have, where the
Okay.
average is around $4 million. That's the 8%.
okay. So in May, as an example, round numbers, we need to have $3 million in the bank, in our savings account, and our ending fund balance account to cover our costs in May.
To cover the total cost,
Yes.
but what's already sitting in there. Yeah,
Okay,
so exactly.
okay. I got some more thinking to do.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate this dialogue and we can bring in September or October, we can provide some additional information that might be helpful with tracking, historically. And that Chris has done a really good job with specific information, but I'm not sure that we've looked at it like month to month
Yeah.
and what you're asking
That would
for.
be useful.
And, similar to, there's things that we just, that might happen that we didn't expect were gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so having a reserve for those situations. And again, this is why we, I think are doing what we can to get back to that situation. Again, these are things that we just aren't sure of, but we know, the work we did in the spring with the reductions that we did, that was all in an effort to restore that fund balance to what it looks like right now. It's 6% based on the budget you have. Again, we are, next slide's gonna be about enrollment.
Well,
And looking at projected enrollment, and we'll talk a little bit about like what are we seeing right now, but we won't, and what I'll mention in a few minutes is we won't know exactly until that Friday. The kids, our first day is Tuesday, on Friday is count day. So that's really our first hard look at of what our numbers look like in comparison to our projected enrollment.
but I mean, that 6% is the end of year balance.
Yes.
Our end of last year balance is well less than 6%, not enough to
Right.
cover a month of payroll.
Right.
even half a month of
Right.
payroll.
And we did not, right, and in July and in August, we did not borrow,
No,
right, the resolution that was passed, so that was not necessary
Right,
to borrow. And I understand where you're coming from on, the situations that we've seen in other districts with binding conditions and gave you that point. And so we are,
aware.
we're optimistic, yeah, we're aware and we're optimistic based on the adjustments we made in
Yeah.
the spring. And again, we haven't exercised the resolution that you'd approved to borrow against, future revenue.
Right.
So
Another trivial question, but just for my own interest, at what point do we know that the 23-24 budget is no longer estimated, but the real
Final.
numbers
um,
by the end of
It's
next month or
not-
something?
it's normally not truly done until the beginning of November towards the
Okay,
end.
okay.
What happens is as expenditures come in September and October, if they are things that were actually purchased in the prior year,
Or
they're
September?
they're
Okay.
moved back.
Okay.
So we do try to finish the spending by the end of September, but then there's all the background work to
Okay.
move everything.
So
Yeah.
November meeting, we'll see what
Is when the books normally
the
close.
actual numbers were from last year.
for 23-24.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's November, is that what you said? November.
Around November,
Around
yes.
Around November.
I won't hold you. to
Fall.
it.
Fall.
Yeah.
Okay,
So then another unknown is for under the capital fund. We don't know what the bids are gonna be, right, for the roof and stuff. So just tracking all the known unknowns, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one of the projects that we're looking at as well as ADA access at GAUS and other buildings. So yes, we have some projects that we're currently determining what the expenses are going to be.
Okay, so the next slide is the budget enrollment, so the estimate of what the enrollment would be. Currently, we've been seeing a flux between 2%, so either up or down. Of 2%, so the estimate for the 4-year forecast is kind of a trend of us going down 2%, which has been what has been happening. And then we'll see on the first count day how it's looking at that point and how the budget compares, and then as the year goes on, you'll just see what our average enrollment turns out to be, which is hopefully greater than what we budgeted, which is always what you want to see.
Yes, and then in conversations with our team, cautiously optimistic, and I'm not sure if that's a term we've used previously, but it looks promising. And we won't see, we'll know for sure, but I'm excited about what we're seeing at this point, as families are coming in. And Alyssa and I were talking earlier today, our secretaries are back, so checking messages and anything that's been submitted as far as new enrollment, but then also families that are making different decisions, possibly moving, so that, we'll see on Friday exactly where we're at, and we'll provide you with an update.
is that the date of record for the state?
That's our count,
The
yeah,
end of
it's a
the
count
first-
day, yeah.
Okay,
And so students, yeah, first day is Tuesday the 3rd, and then that Friday is our count.
So this is the 4-year forecast, so this is truly just an estimate of the 4 years. We're not held to this. This is letting the state know this is where we're hoping to be in 4 years. So the one we're seeing right now is just for the general fund, so it shows the fund balance getting back to that positive situation, up towards the 7 to 10% in the next few years.
And that table, and you think about adjustments, if our enrollment continues on what we're seeing, right? And although I'm cautiously optimistic, if it continues to decline, we will continue to make adjustments, which is what we did. We made this last spring. We'll continue to make our adjustments to, with our costs that match our enrollment.
another question in terms of projected expenditures. I mean, the one that was presented in the spring that Mary and Chris put together had us going from 6 up to 10 almost immediately. I'm comfortable with this glide path back to a 10% reserve. I'm more comfortable with it if I understand, which is not for this meeting, but just my own self-study or whatever, if I understand better how these projections of expenditures are come up with.
Mhm.
But one question I had is whether this now includes the new contracts with both of our unions as part of the explanation for why it's not just jumping right back to 8 or 10 or whatever. I didn't look back, but whatever the projection was in June.
Right, and we were, yeah, because we hadn't settled,
Right,
right? And so, but we, in essence, we're projecting where we might end up. And so, yeah, those adjustments and then you will see us adjust how our spending goes. And again, we know, and we've built budget plans for personnel with those new numbers. And so, yeah, we will provide you with updates as far as that goes. I appreciate that. Yeah, the adjustments that were made, those partnerships are important. We're seeing it across the state. There are some school districts that are currently bargaining. Recently, I think they settled, and so that's what you mentioned, Chuck, about like reaching an agreement and how much better July and August was because we were focused on getting ready for the school year, and really appreciate that. But we will provide you with updated information.
Okay, so the next slide is the next 4 funds in just their 4-year forecast. So this is the same slide that was in the original presentation. Don't have much to go over it. Do you have any questions on these 4 funds? I know they're the smaller ones. Okay. So this next slide is the only new slide in this presentation. So in 24-25, there was House Bill 2494, and it was the state giving us $21 per full-time enrollment to be used on utilities, insurance, maintenance costs, and they want every school district to make sure to prove to them that we are using that $21 per FTE on that type of expense. So there's a form the ESDs came up with, and it shows the revenue we're getting from the state, what we've budgeted we're using in maintenance, supplies, and operating costs, and are we using that $21? We are. Our revenue, our expenditures are over the revenue we're receiving by the 1.8 million. So we are definitely using the $21. So this is just a disclosure. We have to disclose to the board. I have a form Aaron will sign that will just go with the budget, saying, yes, we are using these funds. If you aren't, you just explain why. I don't know if there's any district that isn't.
it doesn't come close to covering our cost
I would
increases.
think every district,
Yeah.
the money is going towards here, but this is just informational. Any questions?
Is there an adjustment over the course of the year?
No. $21.
Wow.
So,
I'm confused by that because you say that we're getting more money from the state and then it shows a negative amount.
yeah, so this is the, top is the money we're getting from the state, the 3.5 million. That's
Yeah.
how much we're getting from the state. That includes the increase of $21 per our budgeted FTE. The bottom is how much we have budgeted in our maintenance, supplies, and operating costs. So
The
anything that's not
MSOP,
salary.
okay, I
Yeah.
got it now. Yeah, we budgeted to spend,
Over the revenue we're receiving.
but we need to keep going in our
Mhm.
costs
That's the difference.
is more than what they would give us. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide is just an overview of what you've seen before, just a reminder of what's not included in the budget. After that is our investment highlights that Chris went over in the June meeting. And then just if anybody has any questions.
Will this presentation be posted to the district website
Yes.
or sent to us even better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, so just as Tracy mentioned, with addition of one slide, so this presentation has been published, I think it was June 11th. Sorry, June 11th was published. So it was presented June 11th. And then, yeah, that's right, that's right.
But some of these numbers are different than that June 11th presentation.
The budget as a whole is the same. Nothing in the budget has changed. It's just the add-on of the disclosure line.
Okay.
So no lines have changed.
Very
Thank you very
clear.
much.
I did note in the 220-page line item, because I'm a nerd, that our property taxes increased 175%. Like that blew my mind. Like 900,000 to 2.5 million. That's quite the jump.
What,
That's insanity. I saw that. I was like, why?
do we pay
Yeah.
property taxes at the same rate as residential or commercial or? I have no idea how a non-profit public institution pays property taxes to the county.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we can work on that.
I'd like to find out next time. Yeah.
Should have.
Yeah. All right, any other thoughts?
Just a thank you for a very clear, concise presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent.
Yes. All right, Shalice, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it looks like we have no public comments directed at this topic specifically.
Correct.
So we'll now return to our regular board meeting. And next agenda item is proposals for action and comments. And citizen comments specific to the action items below. I'll turn it over to Aaron for an overview.
I don't think I have any comments regarding these two resolutions. So there's, with the, as far as the hearing,
The hearing is over. Now it's proposals for action.
oh, that's, no,
General.
not for the.
Yes.
General, yeah.
So then
We approved that.
we need to have a motion, I presume, to approve resolution 2023-2407, our 2024-2025 district budget.
You go. I'm like, somebody's got to go. You go.
Okay, then I'll move to approve resolution 2023-24-07, the 24-25 district budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay. Comments now from our board of directors. So I will call on each member for comments. And start with A.
Okay, I'm super excited for school to start, not because I'm not excited for my kids to go back. I love summer, but I'm just excited about this year. I think I keep saying that. I just feel like this is gonna be a great year. I was able to go to the welcome back thing yesterday at the high school and got to see some really great presentations, and it got me excited to see all the teachers there. And I think the last time I spoke with Aaron, there was only 2 teachers that were left off of those 18 that haven't found a job. It's pretty awesome.
Yes.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, in some role with the district.
Right,
Yes.
right, yep. So I think that that's a good positive outlook. So I'm hoping that we get a few more students that come in. Other than that, that's all that I thought. Chuck?
I too attended and shared in the enthusiasm of our superintendent and staff as we had our welcome back. I think of our school district as a small school district, and then I look at a totally filled auditorium of our employees and realize, yeah, but we're pretty big and we're pretty good. Another comment, and building on my questions earlier, is that our enrollment may come up. We may find other sources of revenue, grants and so forth come in. And so what I would really like to see the administration come up with is a process of prioritization to, as we can, fiscally and prudently, bring back programs and people. Programs are people to meet the needs of our students that were lost in the budget cutting process. So I really hope to see us come back, and I'm encouraged to see the forecast for a couple of years from now, 9%, 10% ending fund budget and fund balance. And I'm really in favor of keeping that as low as we can in order to have the funds available to meet the needs now for the kids now, and not worry so much about the hypothetical catastrophe that might happen that we need a savings account for. One person's opinion.
I don't think I have any deep-seated thoughts to share with anyone. Just appreciate everyone's willingness to, work through the next year. There's lots of changes, but I just feel like everyone is dedicated to moving forward and keeping us buoyant. So I think I agree with Sadie, it'll be a good year. That's it.
And I am excited about the new year. There's a buzz in the air of the community as kids are getting ready, and all my grandkids have been back in school for a while, and that buzz is past. Now they're just in school again, but beginning of the school year is always exciting. I want to thank our labor partners for approving the contract that was tentatively approved, and encourage all parties, our employees, our families, as well as the board and administration, to work together to secure better funding from the state. I kind of see the school board doesn't have any resources except what the state gives us. I'm maybe look at it a little naively, but it's kind of a family budget. We get dollars from the state, we spend dollars. We don't spend percentages of anything, we spend dollars, and when the dollars are gone, they're gone. I'm probably more conservative than Chuck in terms of the reserve fund. I have not, since I was in my early 20s, run out of money and had to go. I never went begging, but I did beg my parents. But a reserve fund is an important aspect of family financial planning, and I think it's an important aspect of our family school district planning. I don't know what the number is, 6%. I mean, I'm really concerned. We're down at well below 3% now at the ending fund balance, and I don't want to. I'm saying it again. I don't want to end up like Marysville, where the state comes in and starts dictating to our employee unions and everyone on how the budget's going to run. I really hope we can maintain Washougal control over these things and work together. I see us all on the same team, although sitting across a negotiating table may not feel like the same team. We are on the same team. We all have the same goals, which is to do the best for our community's children in terms of education that we can. And I encourage us all to work not at each other, but we're going to go at our legislature to fully fund public education in our district as well as the entire state as prescribed in our state constitution. So, that's all I have. Superintendent's update.
Yes, thank you. I think I'll start with this week. So this is the week that everyone has returned. And so look at August 26th. Sadie and Chuck, thank you for being there. I appreciate that you were able to experience that first session. And so I just want to kind of review what happened yesterday. And so it started off, staff who arrived, that came in the main entrance of the high school, saw chalk art that was completed by students and families. And I had been included into this. I got a text was sent to me Sunday afternoon, just saying this is what some of our families and students are doing. So pleasant greeting for staff. Loved it. Yeah, so great. And so then IQ Credit Union sponsored our breakfast. So they provided the funds. IQ was there. They had a moment to share a video and talk about some of the programs they have that support us. So this is a really important partnership that we have. So we appreciate not only the information that they shared, that they've come into our classrooms and provided some financial lessons, and they want to continue to do that at all levels. That's really important for our students to have that experience. Financial literacy is very important. And so they want to continue to work with us. They also provided, again, the breakfast. So our culinary team had breakfast items for us. And so it was great to see everyone in the auditorium, excuse me, in the commons, and then we moved to the auditorium where it was basically the welcome back. And so it was packed. You know, we had a few open seats, but there were probably, and it holds 400, 410, somewhere around there. And so we had several seats in the front that were there. So it was, yeah, it's great to see everybody. And yeah, I appreciate the energy, very positive. You know, my message and what I'm trying to encourage staff to do, and what this was a day of SEL, so social emotional learning. And so it's mandated by the state, and we decided to focus on adult SEL. So the message was about being reflective. And after I shared my thoughts, Xander Cook, who's works with Unite and is with Margaret McCarthy, shared really information about these standards, the state adopted standards. I appreciated how he presented those standards. And it was again about how can we be reflective and what can we do to work collaboratively together and really be our best selves. So that was an excellent message. After Xander was 988. So the suicide and what's the title? Crisis, sorry, the Crisis and Suicide Hotline 988. So Elizabeth Emmett and her team presented, and this is a statewide program. And so presented, it took about 25 minutes to present it on what it is, how you use it. Had just a lot of examples and information. And this is a number that we as staff have had access to since I think 2020 is when I believe it became available. I know that our counselors have this information as a part of their email. And also we have some information in counseling centers, but now all of our staff have been trained on 988 and the importance of 988. And it really is for anyone. So it's not just educators and sharing information with students, but also all of our staff are now better informed about 988. And that as a resource for anyone in crisis. So then the rest of the day was building teams. We're working with their building administrators or supervisors at the high school. So we all stayed at the high school yesterday, including the transportation department. And the focus was on in the early AM self, and then the social standards, and really looking at some of our data and our school improvement plans. So it was a really good day. And then it ended with going over our standard response protocols. We made some changes with our emergency planning, which you will learn more about that later this year. And then a wellness fair. We had a number of vendors who were in the main gym. And so our staff had exposure to Department of Retirement, to local vendors here providing support for staff. So something that we do that I really appreciate. And I think our staff appreciate. So then today was mainly certificated staff working together. You're familiar with our professional learning communities as an initiative. So this was the last time we had one of our consultant through Solution Tree was with us. So Garrett Peterson was with us for most of the day. So we had all of our certificate staff were at Columbia River Gorge. And so they, part of them, the elementary, I think, worked with Garrick at one point in the morning, and then the secondary teams worked with Garrick in the afternoon. So they were together. For the secondary, this was vertical teaming. So our middle school teachers and our high school teachers were working collaboratively together. And what I heard from them was it was a very positive experience. And so it's something I think that they're gonna want to do some more of, and just looking at that 6-12, the transition into high school, but what, how are students doing? What are they focusing on? How are those standards connected to each level? In elementary, they were working in their grade level teams. So Tracy had organized this. Again, we are optimistic about the results of this work, and we are seeing continual improvement. So we believe that this effort is working, and the more opportunity we can have where they're together in this structured environment where they have choice in what they're working on, is going to pay off. Then tomorrow, the building teams and the certificate staff are together in their building. It's really a building focus. And then on Thursday, we're providing technology training for certificate staff. And there's also trauma-informed care training for a number of our classified staff. So that's Thursday. So that's this week. And then our students arrive on Tuesday. And so we're looking forward to having students in buildings. The buildings are looking good. Our grounds are getting better. Yeah, throughout the summer, the growth that happens. And so I'm noticing that our maintenance crew, facilities crew, they've done a really good job. And so the buildings are looking good. I think this week we also have family nights, so families are coming in. Yeah, so our buildings are back to
Good to go.
yes. Yep. You have with you a card, a blue card. This is your GSL card. So if you go to a sporting event, you can use that card. So that's good for the year. So make sure you put your name on that. As far as, so I think Jimmy might have mentioned, or Chuck had mentioned grants. So we are getting information about grants that we had applied for. And there's a couple grants that we've received. I don't have the specific details yet, but we will talk with you about those in September. So the grants that we've received, we're going to continue to look at opportunities where we can partner. The Washougal Schools Foundation is one of those. Ernie Suggs presented at the end of our AM session and talked about that partnership. So I'm going to be attending one of their board meetings, and we're going to be looking at, what is their criteria. As he shared, they have money available for our staff as they have for 20+ years. So we're going to continue to work with them and look forward to writing some of those grants and receiving the rewards for those. Okay, I think that's it.
I'm sorry, can I intervene?
Sure.
I have a comment. I just also wanted to highlight that we had a really successful parent information night for 9th graders last week. And it went well. Mark had a great turnout. I think it's one of the first times, I guess, he shared with me that freshman parents are invited to come, and they haven't really ever embarked on that before. And it was very, very well received. So that was I think the staff was happy, really positive. So I just want to make sure that we highlighted some of that. So
Yes, thank you.
I like that.
And I know we got an update, but for the record, an update on the applications for
Yes.
Angela's.
Yes, so the position number 2 closed at 4 p.m. today, and we have 2 official applications. So official being that they submitted through our process and they live in the correct district within our district. So yeah, so we will be meeting those 2 this coming Tuesday.
Special meeting.
Yeah, social meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey, for doing
Thanks. So is that it?
Yes, that's
Okay.
it. I can keep going on, but I think
No,
I'm
no.
best if I stop.
Next is citizen comments general, and we have one, so I will read our script. Which I've heard many times. I should know it, like the Pledge of Allegiance, but I don't. There's opportunity for citizen comment at tonight's meeting. The first opportunity is for general comments. There's a proposal for action on the agenda. There will be additional time for input on that portion of the meeting to hear comments specific to those agenda items. The board and administrative staff like to hear comments from the public. This is our time to listen to you because this is a business meeting of the board of directors. The board will not respond directly to any public comments or questions or engage in conversation with the speaker. The roundtables are the places to have the conversations. If follow-up action is appropriate, we'll direct the superintendent to follow up on our behalf. Address comments to the board as a whole, not individual members, staff, or other audience members. We ask that you state your name, Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If you hear the bell, we ask that you conclude your remarks. Up to 30 minutes will be allocated for public comment during this portion of the meeting. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community. We value everyone's comments. Thank you. Okay, so we have a citizen's comment by Gail Anderson on a variety of issues. So Gail.
Hello,
Thank you. Hello.
welcome back.
Thanks. Same to you.
You know, I reached to our staff, because I'm a teacher here, and I preach to our community because I live here to come to school boards. Obviously, it works really well. But I want to say things when things are going really well too. And I want to voice some appreciation for you school board members. I love being back on the side where I can see the screen. So when the presentation's being shown, I'm not trying to look through cameras or through people or something. Thank you. Thank you for hearing our concern, for asking questions. I was like last week, oh, there were so many questions. I was so excited. And especially because of the topic. Missing things matter to me. They matter a lot. The big things, the floor cleaner, I really hope that was found. Thank you. I happen to know a math teacher who this weekend went to 4 different Targets to buy enough calculators for his classroom because they've all wandered off and he's not been able to have them replaced because they're an under $20 thing. So he went out and bought calculators last weekend because he needs them. They need them in their classroom, and he doesn't ask his students to take out their phone to work on the calculator, for reasons you might imagine. So those missing things, the big ticket items and the little ticket items matter. So thank you for asking those questions and asking the questions tonight. I appreciate it. I appreciate hearing the conversation, even if those conversations are already taking place too. It helps me to better understand what's happening. So thank you. Excited to have, you guys talked about having a staff stop on the listening tour. I really hope that you can make that happen. I think that would be a really, really good use of time. I think that staff has questions and comments that aren't necessarily negative, but might not be appreciated in this setting. And so in a more personalized setting. And finally, thank you so much, all of you, for including the whole staff. Like you were talking about the bus drivers, the maintenance guys were invited, but they were out maintaining. Our kitchen staff was there, and I've been a special ed teacher for 29 years. And I can't tell you how many times I've had paraeducators say, well, I'm just a para. I'm not invited to this, that, or the other. I'm just a para. Or I don't do this because I'm just a para. None of those people have ever been just a para. They are a paraeducator whom I cannot do my job without. And I think they have value. And I think including them really mattered. So thank you. So, all right, go year.
Thanks, Gail.
Thanks, Gail.
Okay, next we turn to informational presentations, and first on the list is the discussion of our strategic plan.
Yeah, so we started talking about it in our last meeting. And so I just wanted to continue the discussion. I think we'd said that this is the last year of the strategic plan, the 2025 school year. I think you have a copy of what was created in 2019. And then I think it was revised recently a bit. We've added some metrics to the strategic plan. When I looked back historically what we had done. So in 2018-19, we started by surveying students, I believe, and then staff, and really it was around November, December that we were starting to survey. And then we had a steering committee that started meeting. That might have been in January-ish that we started meeting. So similar to the discussion about the superintendent search and process. So we have a little bit of time as we look at, like starting these conversations, and if we want to use a similar process. And I even was kind of looking back at some of the feedback we received. We were using Thought Exchange, which is a different application. We don't currently are paying for that. So that if we started to survey families and students and staff, we could use, there's a number of tools that we could use and asking similar questions and getting their feedback. And what the steering committee did was, once we got that feedback, we actually started making kind of tours around the district. And I think we probably also might have included some of our parent groups in getting feedback. And then we started meeting regularly here, looking at the data as it came in, started looking at themes. Les facilitated this process. And we ended up with what we have. We also looked at a number of districts. I even have a list of those districts that we looked at their strategic plans and the ones we liked, what do we like about them? So I imagine we would use a similar process. I think that we would really want to make sure that we have student voice represented, that we have a community voice represented, and we, really look at what, kind of what does industry want and what are they looking for in a graduate. And I had a conversation recently with an individual who kind of reminded me of that's important, that we're looking to see what kind of skills do our students need. The 26, so yesterday was really about discussing us being reflective and relationship building and those soft skills, those skills that really are important in working collaboratively with individuals, with groups, with teams. So, just how are we building those teams with our students, or those skills with our students, and also with ourselves, and modeling those skills. So I just want to get your thoughts, if you kind of reflected on what we discussed in the last meeting. Again, we have a timeline that we could share on how we did this previously. And I really appreciate our strategic plan. I think it's, we don't really have a choice. It is expiring in 2025. So it's identified by the title. So I think this is the time to start looking at what do we want to do.
Mhm. I think that the best place to start is to evaluate where we are right now in regard to the strategic plan. Because as we evaluate our progress or lack thereof, that will help us in determining our plans for the future. So a real thorough examination. Many of the things in our strategic plan are almost platitudes. They're soft and squishy things, but there are some that are measurable and some that have been turned into measurements. And to the extent that we can with the softer things, an analysis of how well are we doing? What could we do better? That, I think, could do a lot towards guiding our next strategic plan. One suggestion.
Great, thank you.
I think it's definitely time. I mean, obviously we have to do it, but I also think it's a perfect time for us to, I feel like when I look at this, I feel like it's outdated, I suppose, in a sense. And I think that we've accomplished a lot in this strategic plan too, I suppose. And so I think, what Chuck said, go through, see what we've done on each plan or each
Pillar.
Thank you. Gosh, I'm like, what's that word? It's tall. I can do it. For each pillar, see where we're at and just kind of go from there. But I think we've changed a lot since this has been here. So I think it's fresh eyes. It's a lot of fresh eyes. There's, new teachers, new students. I love including students. I think that would be really important. But yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it. I was actually going to say that tonight. I'm actually looking forward to helping create something.
Well, and that's a good question, because I don't know that our current board wasn't involved.
I was.
Right in
Nobody here.
2019, so
Yeah. Right, so it's all fresh, you're, new superintendent, all the things, so I think. Perfect.
Any thoughts?
I
Okay, Jim?
I like the strategic plan. I think it's important to emphasize it's a strategic plan, not a tactical plan. It shouldn't really be changing every 7 years in radical ways. It's not our tactics. It really is a long-term strategy. And I think, as Eddie said, it's time to do it, time to really reflect and review on it. I think part of what we need to take into account comes back to student skills is the changing economy of Washougal. the board is bringing in more technology that our students need to be prepared to get the jobs, or there'll be students from other school districts that take those jobs. And that's one place, just to update it to be reflective of Washougal for the next 7 years, not the last 7 years. It's my comment.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and then second item on the informational presentation is the board listening tour schedule.
Yes, so we made an adjustment. We had identified on the first draft, maybe themes for the October events, and we've removed those. So what we do have one dedicated for staff. It's going to be an Excelsior. It starts at 4:30, goes to 6. So that should be that start time should allow, based on this, the ending, some times of all of our buildings, that they should be able to get there. And so Excelsior is a good venue for the meetings with the round tables. So we're going to use a similar format that we've had in the past. So that first one, October 8th, is dedicated for staff. The 15th is community. Again, as I mentioned the last time, staff could certainly attend either one of those. But the one on the 8th, we definitely want to have for our staff an opportunity to share their thoughts. And again, there's we've debated whether we want to provide some ideas possibly. And as we look at what are priorities for us, but we certainly don't want to narrow what the discussion is. So those would only just be as possible ideas. As we're, as we're looking at revising our strategic plan, as we're we're looking at making decisions regarding the superintendent position. Those could be things that the people want to discuss. So, but we want to be open. So I think those were good adjustments. Then we have the February 11th date, April 8th, and then June 3rd. Those locations are mostly locked in. The Legion one, we're still working on confirming that, but I appreciated the last time we were at the Legion Hall. That's a nice space to meet. And so that was, it was a good meeting. Any follow-up thoughts or wonders about?
Are there ways that we could consider to enhance the participation by staff and community?
Yeah, so possibly advertising these events and through social media, possibly other ways. So yes,
Because the
we're
more
aware.
people, the better,
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Yep. So I know that we certainly can with our staff, right? That we can give them plenty of reminders when it is, where it is, and what it is. And as far as our families, I think we can definitely encourage them to attend and make sure they're aware of what it is.
I think one good thing to do too is when Les sends out, hey, this is coming up, even though we're not specifically saying this is for the superintendent thing or whatever, I think putting ideas of things that, things that are coming up, maybe that parents may be like, oh, I didn't know that was coming up, not, but you can come for anything, but here's some things that are coming up if you'd like to chat with us about it. Just because I think sometimes things get forgotten or they don't realize that it's something that's coming up or, something like that, just to have an idea. I feel like if I was a parent and saw that, I'd be like, oh, that is something I want to talk about. It's coming up. It affects my kids. Whatnot.
Yeah. And so this flyer that we have that we can post in a variety of places does have a paragraph that identifies, some possible topics.
Okay.
And so we can, look at making this, more visible. Again, not only on our website, but maybe around town.
A nuanced suggestion. At these events, we've always had building administrators sitting at the table with us. And it's been neat to have the school board split up, so we're not meeting. But for the one with staff, I'd suggest not having the principals there. I think some staff would feel inhibited, by having their supervisor there when they're trying to give feedback. That's just a thought.
But we want them to come though, right? Do we want?
Their staff too.
Yeah, their staff too. So I don't want to limit that to not having, just my suggestion, just not limiting. I don't want not principals to come, I suppose, right? We don't.
That's a really good
not to
point.
come-
And we're talking about staff.
Yeah,
We're talking about all educators
yeah.
and administrators are staff.
I mean, I want maintenance. I mean, everybody should be
Yeah.
welcome in that
And
one, right?
yep,
Staff.
and Chuck, I understand your perspective.
Yeah.
That someone might not feel comfortable with their supervisor next to them.
Yeah.
I guess the difference is, maybe we would ask our administrators not to be strategically placed with a board member.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you wouldn't have someone there next to you. The goal was
I see what
always
you're
to
saying.
have, a district administrator or a building administrator with a board member, the board director. And so for the staff one, we won't have that.
I think in general, I found that valuable. There were things that you all know that I
Right.
didn't know.
Yep.
But I concur with Chuck that there is a power structure at the workplace, and as long as staff realize you can walk into the room and choose the
Mhm.
table that your boss is not sitting at, and that
Chuck, what do you think of that?
might take care of it. I don't know, but I agree with the sentiment completely.
Anything to facilitate free and open communication.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Right,
That's the objective.
and dialogue.
And again, the intent to have someone with a board director was to assist with questions that maybe you don't have that
Absolutely.
available
Yeah,
information.
that's-
That's been
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know at times, like there would be someone I would be talking to, I would know the answer, but Tracy was 2 tables over, and I would say Tracy can help me with, she's in charge of teaching and learning.
Right.
And so then individuals seem to be able to make that adjustment. So I hear what you're saying. I think it would be challenging to say to our building administrators, you're not able to attend this, because this is for all staff.
But I see what Chuck's saying.
I
too,
absolutely
being that
do, yes.
having
Yeah.
that comfortable.
Yep,
I see
right, to be able to share really what their
Yeah.
thoughts are. That's what we want.
Perfect.
Anything else on listening tours?
No, I'm just grateful.
We've really expanded this beyond community. We want to listen to the general community, parents and
Others?
voters.
Yeah.
So we want this to expand to staff. And I think that's a good thing. And I'm wondering, if it would be good for us guys to hear from building level administrators and directors as a question. I don't know.
That's a great segue into my next comment, Chuck.
And I'll turn it over to the president.
It's future agenda items, and in light of that, I think my understanding is you decided not to do the not meaning pejoratively, the dog and pony show of all the principals and buildings with the SIPs presentations. But I would like to, on an agenda after we have a full board, to have an overview of how our kids did on the testing, school site grade levels, just as an overview, right? I mean, I can look it up if I have to, but it's a lot of work. And I think that's the metrics that the community uses and that I use personally on how well we're doing. If 90% of our kids are proficient in English, I feel pretty good. If 20%, I don't feel so good. But those numbers are available, and I think in lieu of 8 or 10 SIP presentations, at least that sometime in October, November.
So I think we have,
workshop would be
we have
valuable.
planned our ins report. It's actually, we don't call it the ins report. We do call it, I thought it was the title, the whole child. So yeah, we will talk about the data points. So we will present data to you in a similar way. And if you remember that we had Les, myself, Tracy, Connor, Margaret had a role. And so
Right.
we will present to you a lot of information.
Yeah,
And in
Well,
October, yeah.
in October at
Yeah.
the workshop. That's
Yes.
great. Okay, check.
Yeah, so that's coming.
And then the one thing I did, not the one thing, one of the things I did feel was valuable in having the SIPs was the opportunity for each school leadership team to be present with the board, focused on their school. And I would hate to lose that completely. I'm sure they still are required to develop a school improvement plan. And whether, 40 minutes of a board meeting on 8 of them is valuable or not, I'm agnostic about. But there is value in having those site leadership teams at a board meeting.
Yeah.
Focused on their school situation.
Yeah, so the process, how those are developed hasn't changed. Matter of fact, I think we've improved because yesterday afternoon, principals were going over their last year's, this 23-24 school improvement plan. They presented information and they looked at data. So they looked at last year's data in working on and getting ready to identify what directions do we want to go. And similar to our strategic plan, where we don't start that over every year, like that just it doesn't, it's not effective.
Right.
So we're looking at continuous improvement. So they're in a similar way. And so the template that they use is provided by the state. It's updated each year. That's the template we use. So the process is the same. I think added that we actually dedicated time yesterday to it, which is in line with the SEL standards. In August, early August, as teams, we looked at those SIP templates and we talked about what we're hoping to see. And so we provided our administrators time to work on those. And we don't always have the data we need from OSBI or wherever we're collecting it in the form we need it. So at times we're waiting for that information. So OSBI hasn't published all that information yet. So we are still collecting, but building administrators have been presented recently and are working on that. So the template, the plan itself is the same as it has been for a number of years. So the presentations, what we've done is you'll see each elementary team will present. It's just we've truncated the presentation. Yeah, because we said you have an hour. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to build a presentation for an hour.
Right.
We said you have 90 minutes. They're going to build it for 90 minutes. So we said you have about half that. And we really want you to focus on specific areas and be intentional with your data and your what you're sharing. And then there's going to be time for questions. And so Gauze will present, then Hathaway will present, Columbia River Gorge will present, and then CHS will present. And so each team will see the work of the other team. So we're seeing this, you might have mentioned that, that hasn't happened. So there's an opportunity though, even though they've been working on them together, in essence, we provided some time and they work very closely together. There's this consistency or continuity across the district at K5 or TK5. So I'm looking forward to that. And then you're going to see on a site visit, you hopefully will see the action, right? And then we're also working on maybe a mid-year check and then end of year check. So that the big idea would be that there's really 3 pieces to this. And each time, maybe the duration we spend on it gets a little bit shorter. And you're just getting an update mid-year. And then at the end of the year, it's a little bit shorter of an update to see how things went. And so then the high school and the middle schools are going to similar. There's going to be 3. Actually, WLA might be in that secondary one. But similarly, you'll get to hear from JMS, CMS, WLA, and then the high school in a similar format. And so it makes for and it's a lot of information for you in a short period of time. But again,
We can handle it.
you can handle it. You're going to have the SIP, the templates provided to
If
you
we have
in
it ahead of the
advance.
meeting,
So you'll be able to look at those. Again, there's a lot of information there, and then the presentation. Hopefully, again, we believe it'll work. But the cool thing about this is, if it doesn't, we can always adjust to it. But I think this is a nice adjustment to what we've had. I know as a building principal who presented always at the end. It was in February or it was in January, and half the year was over.
Right.
And we're talking about data that was not old news, but like we have updated data.
Right.
And it wasn't, but JMS was presenting in September or early October. So David and Tiffany, already had to get theirs ready soon. So we have a deadline for all of them. And we want those completed and published, including the presentations, so we can see what they look like.
Yeah.
So I think it's,
Okay.
and again, I'm sure you'll give me feedback if it isn't what we are
I'm sure I
presenting
will.
to be.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be great though.
Yeah,
Then the other future agenda item, which since this is the only place that we meet and discuss anything, I would just like to put this on the table for a workshop. And that is our district cell phone policy. I think research is coming out
Good.
more and more on how impactful distractions are in the learning process, and it's having not only social emotional impact on kids, but academic impact. And we could wait until the state passes a law or OSBI gives us guidance before we could lead. And I think our kids are the ones that are important to me. And I think it's worth having an agenda
Yes.
discussion in a workshop.
Great.
So, policy.
Yes. Okay, so the couple things you mentioned, so the ends report we have
Right.
scheduled, I think that's the data that you're looking for. How did we do?
Right.
Right, and then how are we doing? And looking at, how we're doing amongst school districts in the state, how we doing locally? So I think we can share information with you about that. We typically, with the last 2 years. And then I think that will, if that isn't, because I don't know what you're mentioning, like the building administrator. So I don't know if there's another opportunity for you, other than the SIP presentations, to interact with our building leaders. And so maybe that's just something we can kind of keep.
Well,
track
are
of.
we going to have the SIP presentations just abbreviated
Yeah,
in the same way?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
okay, gotcha. All right.
I was under the impression, no, we're not going to do that.
good. I'm good. So I'm glad
Fine.
that clarified that.
Yes.
Excellent. So I think we're
Okay.
set.
Just things to think about for the
Yeah.
future.
Yep.
Just Quickly,
yeah.
just on community involvement on these listening tours, I noticed that every meeting is at the same time on the same weekday.
Yeah,
So
that's a good
if-
point.
For working families, maybe having one or two at alternate times would provide opportunities for other people. So,
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I think that our first time we did this, we had early afternoon.
One that was during the day.
Yeah.
One that was early afternoon, one that was late afternoon.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, no,
If not for this year, then in the future.
Sure.
just-
so yeah, we'll talk about potentially revising the times. Yeah, okay, good.
Maybe just have one that's just
Yeah,
a little different, maybe.
Yeah.
I think at 7 to 9. Is that too?
You would have a
yeah,
six-
6, yeah, I think not past 8 probably won't. Most people probably wouldn't, but
maybe
I don't,
6 to 8.
yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but
Or what about a weekend day instead of a work day?
Yeah.
I mean, I see the issue.
yeah, I have the same
Work
issue with
kids.
parent teacher conferences, it's
Right.
never at a convenient time for working families.
Right.
So,
And most of our families are working.
Yeah, and this too for our upriver families too, I feel like that could be hard for them to maybe either come back down, or something if they live further out. I don't know. I would be willing to either give up, a couple hours on a Saturday or stay late.
Yeah.
I don't want to put too much onus on the support, team or anything, but anyway.
We want them to be valuable. I mean, having a bunch of us sit around round tables when parents aren't able to make it for their own reasons is not.
Maybe 5:30. Or, yeah, maybe 6 to
6 to
8:30.
8 maybe.
Yeah, 6 to 8, I guess, yeah, 6 to 7:30 or 6 to 8.
Did have one in the morning time and we had with some decent.
That was it,
I remember that one.
that whole, yeah,
We actually, we did have a good turnout
We
at
did.
that morning one, didn't we? Remember that now.
well, I think we could talk about that.
Okay,
And I'm sorry, just
No, go
the
ahead.
cell phone, I didn't, yeah, so I appreciate the interest in having that conversation, and we talked about it with our building leaders, and so they are also aware and.
Well,
having those
yeah, I just
Conversations.
saw something that
So-
seven of the 20 largest districts in the country now have banned cell phone use completely. 7 more have banned it in classroom. And I think it's clear to, I think almost anyone who thinks about it, that if you're distracted, I have my 18-year-old granddaughter living with us now. For the summer, she's on her phone
Yes.
and conversations are different, let's say. And certainly in the classroom, if that distracted learning thing is just a reality.
Yes.
So. Okay,
All right, thank you.
so our evaluation forms are the Google form again. They're available online for the board members to evaluate the meeting. And that brings us to the end. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Stay.
It is 7:45 and we are adjourned.